Hi, my name is Jay Sugarman, and I want to welcome you to Innovation Showcase. The main purpose of this ongoing series is to inform viewers about exciting innovations and creative individuals across the fields of business, science, technology, education, and the arts. Today, via Zoom, we're fortunate to have as our guests Sandra RizKallah, Dan Croft, Matthew Cunningham, and Francis Hickey, all of whom are associated with Plugged In Band Program, a Needham-based nonprofit that for more than 2 decades has brought young musicians together to form bands, collaborate creatively, and find their voices through music. Sandra, along with Tom Pugh, were the co-founders, with Sandra now serving as the executive director. Dan is the associate director. Matthew works as the program manager, and Francis is the inclusion coordinator. Out of Plugged In Band's same philosophy grew Peace Tracks, a powerful international songwriting program that connects teenagers from conflict-affected regions around the world using collaborative music making as a way to practice empathy, share stories, and build understanding across borders. During the program, we'll find out why and how Plugged In Band program and Peace Tracks came about and how they've grown, developed, and operate today. In so doing, we'll come to better understand and appreciate how music is more than art. It's a human language that can open dialogue, foster resilience, and remind us of our shared humanity. Let's start by meeting our guests. Welcome. So delighted you're all able to be here.
Thank you so much for having us.
You
Thank
know, and,
you.
and just first of all, congratulations on all you've offered and accomplished locally for more than 20 years and now internationally. Truly an incredible achievement. Eager to find out more and have you inform viewers. And to that end, Sandra, would you please start by sharing why and how the Plugged In Band program came about?
Yes. Well, Tom and I met while we were both working at WGBH, and we got married. And one time we were actually in Provincetown, and we were sitting on the beach with some of my friends who run a theater program. And this was before the School of Rock, so there really wasn't like a teen rock band program at that time. And my friends were talking about the youth theater program they were running, and it really felt suddenly I just had this feeling like someone tapped me on the shoulder and whispered in my ear, like, you should do this with music because Tom is a musician, I'm not. And so told Tom my idea, told my friends. We came home, and neither of us had business experience or like nonprofit management, and we just it was almost like we kind of just made a contract with this soul mission, and that was it. There was no going back. And we started just by, it was before all the internet stuff, so we hung up little flyers with the tear off phone numbers, and then the Community Foundation for Metro West, which is one of our big supporters, they offered a lot of nonprofit management classes, and over the years we took those, and just slowly but surely we kept growing.
Fabulous, fabulous. Dan, picking up on that, how has it grown and developed and operates today?
It is Plugged In has grown immensely since nearly 25 years ago when it first started with one single band with 5 students in it. During our heyday before COVID hit, we were averaging about 50 bands per session. So a massive increase in the band component. We started out as just a band program. Shortly thereafter, we added one-on-one private lessons. Then we saw that there was a need for summer options, so we started a summer day camp. Then, we've just kind of kept growing. Whenever we find a teacher with, experience in some new musical area, we offer it to our students. So at this point, we run workshops on songwriting and digital audio production. We do drum circles for the community. We do a little bit of everything, as long as it's sort of connected to music. So our programming and our student body has vastly increased since we first started. One of the things that hasn't changed is sort of our mission and our values. So the focus on making music to help other people and for the joy of it, and being an inclusive program that accepts, everybody regardless of their skill level or where they're at.
I think you've partially answered it, but what gap in youth music education were you trying to fill and continue to go forward with?
So Plugged In is sort of really rooted in making music for the joy of making music to use as a tool to do good things for other people, to, bring people together that maybe wouldn't have connected otherwise.
Mm.
So we're different than the majority of the more traditional music, education programs or school-based music education programs, because we're not focused on perfection or beating out somebody in competition and winning that spot.
Mm.
It's about, playing the music that you want to play, just, and if there is any competition, it's personal competition with your own goals. It's a very sort of collaborative, open, loving, accepting program, and it seemed very lacking in a lot of the more traditional music education, programs out there. So I think that's what's really helped Plugged In thrive.
Wonderful, wonderful. In the development, when did you realize and others that it's more than just a music program in the traditional sense?
For me, it was 15 years ago on my first day of working at Plugged In. I think that from its inception, long before I showed up, it was completely different and more than just a music program. Because Sandra and Tom, they're such loving people. They want to see everybody succeed. They want to bring communities together. So that had been the focus from like the very beginning. And have we been able to refine that and make it easier and be able to accept even more people? Yes. So we've grown those ideas, but sort of what made us more than a music program, or what rather makes us more than a music program today, is what made us more than a music program 24 plus years ago when we were founded.
Terrific, terrific. Moving on, Sandra, how did your vision evolve from the local band program to the global initiative like Peace Tracks now?
Well, I've always been interested in international everything. My mom was from Germany. My dad was from Cardiff, Wales. My ex-husband's from Lebanon. So we're sort of an international family. And I kind of always felt like I belonged to the world, sort of like because of my family. And so in doing Plugged In, we used to invite bands from different countries. We had bands from Zimbabwe visit, Uganda, Trinidad. And I sort of had on my long-term goal list was to do an in-person cross-cultural exchange someday, but it's very
Mm.
expensive. It's very time-consuming, but it was still on that list. But then when the pandemic happened, as Dan said, with our team and our staff who were so creative and adaptable, we were able to actually have a lot of fun with music during the pandemic. And I started to see that as a possibility to create an international music program that was much more doable financially, time-wise, everything. And a very difficult thing actually was part of what made it happen. I ended up getting a very severe case of COVID in January 2021
Mm.
before the vaccine came out. And I was out of the house for 6 weeks and really, really sick. And when I came home, I couldn't go back to work, but I was definitely well enough to do things. And so I really
Mm.
felt like this was a time to dream and to play. And that is when I came up with the idea for Peace Tracks. And I drafted sort of a very brief proposal, made a list of people who were doing virtual exchange in the world, sent it out, and heard back from a couple of people. And one of them was an organization in DC that we partnered with right away. And then we
Mm.
launched our first session in August 2021.
Building on that, can you share a little bit of how Peace Tracks works in practice?
Yeah, so we use Microsoft Teams, which we use as sort of the hub of where all the participants get a login. We create one team, which is the place where everyone gathers. We first have the students introduce themselves, where they are in the world, the things that they're interested in. They send photos of, their pets, the things that they like, art, etc. And we encourage everyone to comment on each other and get to know each other. And then we facilitate a conversation with them about the change they want to see in the world, the issues that are concerning them. And those topics become the themes for the songs. And then we create a channel in our Microsoft Teams account for every song. And so many, in the last sessions, we've had about 14 songs and ranging from war and peace, gender identity, um, the World Cup, bullying.
Hmm.
And so what we tell the students is that they can just post in each of those teams what song they want to be part of. And then we have teachers who can be anywhere in the world. And each teacher is responsible for a couple of songs. And even though we work as a team, their teachers are ultimately responsible for two songs. And they work with the students on initially, we have a Microsoft Word document, a collaborative doc that the teacher creates and teaches them about songwriting, song structure.
Hmm.
And we're very careful to not just put a Western perspective, but to have more of a global perspective and really incorporate the different styles of the students that we're working with. And then the students begin writing ideas for the lyrics, and the teachers help them complete the lyrics. And then we move to an app called Soundtrack, which is a collaborative online digital music editing tool. We create a project for each song, and we invite the students to join. And then the teachers help teach them how to use the app, and over time they create the music. And then we move to a similar thing called WeVideo, which is an online video editing app, and then the students create a music video, and then we have a live stream concert on YouTube at the end of the session where we
Wow.
stream all the videos live. We have a host, which has often been Dan, and we invite students from all over the world to join as co-hosts, and then we have the live chat where all the students, their family, and teachers, etc., can celebrate each other and cheer each other on, and that's it in a nutshell.
Wow, that's incredible. And I know locally, one of the big strengths are having these performances, most often for charitable foundations. And it seems like through the online venue, you've sort of carried that going forward. Can you share a moment when cultural differences sort of became a real creative strength?
Yes. Well, what was interesting is, so as I think I mentioned, we received a grant from the U.S. State Department for a 2-year program, 4 sessions, start in from 2023 to 2025. And we were working with many schools in the U.S., in Palestine, Morocco, and Jordan. And the program started 1 week before the war broke out. So we were really, we're working with our funder. We were very ready and prepared to deal with potential conflict, given that the world was, in such conflict. And but what we found is that there was none actually. I think that I think something that we've learned through Plugged In and also with Peace Tracks is that kids are naturally good and kind and empathic, and they just want a peaceful world. And I think
Mm.
even though Peace Tracks is virtual, it has the same sensibility that Plugged In does. It's very intimate. It feels like a family. We really have students just come as they are. We don't have a lot of pressure on them. We really just want them to come with open hearts and connect with each other and collaborate and empower them. So I think that a lot of the students felt safe, and it was very beautiful just to see how the cohort, really connected out of empathy and a collective, vision for peace in the world.
And just very briefly before we move on and hear from Matthew and Francis, how does music create that empathy that maybe conversation alone sometimes might not?
Well, I think, there's no language barrier with music. It really connects to the soul and to people's feelings and emotions. And I think that just like helps to create that connection of humanity so that instead of looking at the things that separate us, I think music kind of inspires that connection of what is similar. And it also, I think, if you're, being in a sort of heart-centered place when you listen to music, it inspires empathy and compassion, and I think that is a perfect milieu for creativity.
Wonderful. Most definitely. Most definitely. Matthew, welcome. In addition to Peace Tracks, could you please share some of the other plugged in programs and events?
Sure. So our main program piece is that we have our band classes. We have two sessions of band classes, one during the spring and one during the fall. Each is about 14 weeks. And they perform at the end of each session in a charity concert where they raise money for an organization that is nominated by and voted on by the students. Yeah, the band classes, they just meet once a week. They work on songs that the students are interested in playing. And it's their own group. They create their own set list. They come up with their own band names and put together a great show by the end of the concert.
Terrific.
There are a couple other things that we do. We have private lessons that run just about all year round, and then we have a summer camp that's sort of a mixture of the band class piece, but then also has some other workshops, and that happens during July.
Nice. Can you just add a little bit more? What does a typical band session look like?
Sure. So, towards the beginning of the session, students will come in with songs that they really like, that they might be interested in playing. And it starts out with a lot of listening as a group, sharing ideas and getting a feel for what the different bandmates might be interested in playing as a group. The teachers will then help the students to figure out the parts on their instruments, whether that's transcribing parts, printing off sheet music or lyric sheets, whatever they need to make arrangements that the instrumentation of the group can play and practice for the concert. And as the group continues throughout the 14-week session, they sort of narrow down which songs they want to perform at the concert. And during the last few weeks, it's a lot of dress rehearsals, timing their sets to make sure that they're an appropriate length for the concert and just getting themselves concert ready.
Nice, nice. How does Plugged In and the teachers who work with you balance the skill development with offering creative freedom for the students?
Yeah, I think what's really unique about our band program is that the students get to choose all of the songs that they play themselves. The teachers can always suggest things that they might think might be a good fit, but the students are the ones that are picking the songs. There isn't a set curriculum or method book or anything like that. And so our teachers are really good at taking the songs, the musical interests, the different styles that the students want to play, and using those as teaching tools for other musical concepts like rhythm, harmony, melody, and figuring out how can we teach those concepts, but using the songs that the students are resonating with.
Nice. I know all students must grow and thrive through the programs, but say, what transformations maybe have you seen observed in shy or hesitant students?
Yeah, I think Plugged In is a really welcoming and supportive community. And so I think it's a place where students who might come to us shy over the course of their time practicing and performing with us can come to be really confident. I know we've had a number of students who, when they first show up, are very quiet and or have a hard time controlling their social anxiety. But after being with us, working in classes, getting to make friends, getting to express themselves with music, just the more that they do it, the more confident that they get. And it's not just confidence as a musician, it's confidence making friends, talking with others. And then also, which you'll hear more from Francis soon, we serve a lot of students with disabilities. And there are even some students that we've had who are maybe minimally verbal, who are able to express themselves through music. And I think that is also a really profound way that music is allowing people to express themselves who maybe didn't feel comfortable or able to before.
Most definitely, most definitely. What is it about live performances that can help shape and build students' confidence?
I think when people think of live performances, they seem like they could be really intimidating, having to perform and showcase your talents in front of a bunch of people. But like I was saying, Plugged In is such a welcoming and supportive community that I think our live performances, especially, end up having dozens of cheerleaders in the audience, and kind of an environment where there is no such thing as failing, because as long as you're trying and sharing and doing your best, that there are going to be, like I said, dozens of people in the audience who are cheering, dancing, and encouraging them. So I think the live performances for us are a celebration of the students who are on stage.
Oh, wonderful way to put it. Um, Francis, welcome. And building on what Matthew was outlining, what does inclusion mean in the context of a music program or what's being done at Plugged In?
Well, it's great to be here. Thank you. It means a lot of different things, honestly. I think the at its core, having a music education environment that is inclusive is having one that understands students on a holistic level. It's not just getting students in the door and putting music theory in front of them. It's about, giving them the opportunity to take ownership of their education, to bring elements of their own musical interests, their own backgrounds, their own cultures, their own goals into the classroom, and, use the experience of being in a band and working with one another to achieve something as a group, while also honoring each individual member of the band as an individual at the same time. And it's just sort of trying to strike that balance where, obviously when you're in a group setting, you are going to have to make compromises for the sake of the group to achieve a common goal, but to do that in a way where, students still feel honored and feel respected and feeling included, hence the name, is, I think it's at the core of everything that we do in both our group and our private lessons as well.
Terrific. No, it seems like a noble ideal and quite challenging. How do you go about ensuring students of varying abilities feel truly integrated?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's something that before I joined the admin team, I worked as a teacher in the classroom, and I've also taught in more conventional music educational situations, and I found that the best way to do that is just to give students the power of choice. A student is only ever going to pick something that they are motivated by, or something that they want to learn, or something that they feel comfortable choosing for themselves. And so I think if you're able to sort of maybe reframe education as a partnership between teacher and student, as opposed to something that a teacher does and a student receives, then I think that goes a long way towards making sure that students feel respected in the classroom and feel supported. And, there are definitely times where some of our students, like Matthew was saying, they tend to be on the shyer side, and they will kind of retreat into a comfort zone a little bit. And a good teacher understands that you may have to give them a little bit of a nudge in the direction of progress. And so it's just, developing an understanding of your student to where you can do that in a supportive and kind and empathetic way to make sure that the student is consistently striving to achieve a new goal.
Mhm. And once you have people participating, how does adaptive instruction strengthen the entire ensemble?
I think it's the main thing it does for students is that it removes barriers, right? So I think there are a couple different kinds of adaptive teaching. There's like the cognitive and the physical. And so an example of like physical adaptation is like, the guitar is a very popular instrument that a lot of students like to play in band class. Mm-hmm. But it's also a very not accessible instrument because of all the fine motor skills that it takes to make certain chord voicings and things like that. And so there are things that we've done in the past with, retuning the guitar to make it so that students don't have to exercise such extreme fine motor control to get chords out of it. It just removes that technical barrier, and it gives the student an opportunity to play meaningful music in a group setting without asking them to do something that they're just not able to do. And so you're sort of reducing something that would keep someone from interacting with music, and just giving student a more direct pathway to, gaining understanding of music as a whole and gaining proficiency on a specific instrument. And then on the cognitive side of it, there's a lot of stuff that, when we think of like a traditional music school, I went to Berkeley and I got both my undergrad and my master's degree at Berkeley. And so I'm well aware that in a lot of music educational environments, there's a big emphasis on certain things like sight reading, where they put a piece of music in front of you and they tell you to read it. And if you don't do it right, they mark you wrong and it affects your grade, and there's a lot of that sort of single modality stuff. And so recognizing that component of music education, like recognizing when, we're potentially punishing a student not for not being able to do something, but not being able to do it in a way that we are dictating, and eliminating those situations as well. It lets us make sure that we're giving our students the best opportunity to express what they know and are able to do without having to succeed in rigid, arbitrary, constructs that we're setting up for them.
No, what you've outlined, I think it goes beyond just music education and what good teaching is and can be beyond the arts and music classroom in particular. Wonderful overview. Thanks for sharing that, Francis.
Thank you.
In closing, Matthew and Dan, would you please share briefly some of the current and upcoming programs and events people can look forward to and perhaps some contact information?
Sure, I'll let Matthew take care of the program pieces, but we typically have two big events a year. They're not for a little while, so the first one will take place in September. It's one of our largest fundraising events every year. We participate in a project called Bike to the Beach. So we recruit bike riders. So if you're out there and you love long bike rides, then it's a 100-mile bike ride from Boston to Newport, Rhode Island, all in support of organizations like Plugged In that support individuals with disabilities. Then in October, on October 3rd, we are kicking off the year-long celebration leading up to our 25th anniversary with our annual event called the Dirty Water Music Festival. So it is a fundraising event, but not the typical one. So there's a very small ticket price for community members and folks who enjoy watching live music to come see a bunch of different bands that will be playing that are sponsored by local corporations. So two awesome events that we'd love to invite you guys to. As far as contact information goes, the best way to reach us, whether it's regarding partnerships, programming, whatever it is, participation in any of our events, just shoot an email to info@pluggedinband.org. And that goes to everybody that's on the screen right now, myself, Sandra, Francis, and Matthew. So whoever's bucket it falls into, we'll make sure we get back to you right away.
Terrific, terrific. And Matthew, just a very brief word about programs.
Yeah, so our spring band class session actually just started. So our students have just begun work on preparing pieces for the spring concert. But that will be in June. It'll be June 13th and 14th if you want to come see our students perform some of their favorite rock music.
Terrific, terrific. And we're going to be fortunate in the closing credits, not only have that contact information, but a link or maybe more to some examples of students making music and sharing with others. But unfortunately, we've come to the end of the program. I want to thank all of you so much for taking the time to be here. Fabulous to learn about your efforts, and just want to end by wishing you continued success with future endeavors.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it so much.
Thank you. It was great to be here.
Also want to thank those of you watching for joining us, and hope you'll be able to tune in next time.